I would have to say my favorite all-time accessory for squat would have to be a hanging good morning, a hanging concentric good morning. More specifically, a hanging concentric good morning with a giant cambered bar and a shitload of band tension. Looking back, I never tackled my accessories, or at least my first accessory, with the mindset, what's my weakness? How do I make it stronger? So it wasn't, oh, my hamstrings are weak, I gotta do good mornings, or my triceps are weak, I gotta train my triceps. It was establish where your form breaks down in the lift and come up with an exercise that trains that range of motion. So for squats, early on when I was starting to get into the really heavy weights and multiply, one of my problems would be my chest would drop coming out of the hole. And I was a huge fan, am still a huge fan of Chuck Vogelpool. And I watched a video where he was coming out of the hole with over 1,100 pounds. And as he came out of the hole, his chest dropped pretty significantly. And he paused for a second, caught it, reversed it, and then continued the lift. This just blew my mind. Like, a man literally caught 1,100 pounds, good morninged it back into position, and then finished the squat. I was like, how the fuck did he do that? And looking back at some of his videos, I'd see that he's big on good mornings. So I was like, that's gonna fix my problem. It wasn't, my hamstrings, my upper back, my lower back, my glutes, those are weak. What can I do to fix it? I was like, no, this is the part of my lift that I suck at. What can I do to fix that part of my lift? And inevitably, through trial and error, I ended up with hanging concentric good mornings with a giant cambered bar and a shitload of band tension. These were my favorite by far. They also had huge carryover to deadlift because you start it at about 45 degrees, give or take. And that's almost basically the same starting position. Like if you were to freeze frame where you started in the hanging concentric good morning, you're basically in the same starting position as your deadlift. And what are you doing on deadlift? You are doing a concentric lift. There's no, other than people who really knowing how to load the bar, there really is no stretch reflex. It's just going down and concentrically breaking something off the ground that is completely still, which is exactly what you're doing with the hanging good morning. So you're mimicking that dead stop starting point and just developing tremendous reversal strength. And the same kind of went into my other lifts. For bench, my all-time favorite accessory is a hanging lockout press. Only the last couple inches, I knew lifting in a shirt that those are the most important inches of the lift because that's where the shirt gave out, and that was the most important place where you needed to have raw strength. So I wasn't particular on straight weight bands, chains. I would rotate all sorts of different variations. I loved any variation of a hanging lockout press. And then on deadlifts, it was a conventional rack pull starting just below the patella, because I knew, as with in a bench shirt, that lockout is where the gear is going to give out and it's on you to finish it. So I always knew that was the most important place to make sure that my raw strength was on point. And those I particularly loved with a shitload of band tension. Just starting something from a dead stop concentrically with no stretch reflex, getting those bands to move, especially shitload of bands, just developed a shitload of reversal strength. So again, this is my thinking that is just kind of a little off than other people's. I didn't plan my accessories necessarily around what my weak points were. It wasn't, oh, my triceps are weak, I got to do something for my triceps. It was, no, here's where my lift fails, I'm going to train that area of my lift. And then 3, 4, 5, those accessories, those were the ones where I broke it down into maybe smaller single joint movements to address those individual muscles. But yeah, those were my favorite accessories and the big 3 lifts.